Penguin Random House Audio presents The Ratline, The Exalted Life and Mysterious Death of a Nazi Fugitive, by Philippe Sands. Read for you by Philippe Sands, Katja, Riemann, and Stephen Fry.
Their bows will slaughter the young men. They will have no mercy on the fruit of the womb. They will not look with pity on the children. Isaiah 13:18. It is more important to understand the butcher than the victim. Javier Cercas.
Note to the listener. The story in this book takes place across a period of time in which boundaries, the exercise of power, and names of places often changed. For example, through the 19th century, the city today known as Lviv was generally known as Lemberg, located on the eastern outskirts of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Soon after the First World War, it became part of newly independent Poland and was called Lwów, until the outbreak of the Second World War, when it was occupied by the Soviets, who knew it as Lwów. In July 1941, the Germans unexpectedly conquered the city and made it the capital of District Galician in the general government, when it was known once more as Lemberg. After the Red Army vanquished the Nazis in the summer of 1944, it became part of Ukraine and was called Lviv, the name that is generally used today. Lemberg, Lviv, Lwów, and Lwów are the same place. What to call the city and other places the names of which changed across the years in this book posed a number of difficulties. I've generally sought to use the name by which the place was referred to by those who controlled it at the time of which I am writing.
Prologue. Rome, 13th of July, 1949. The condition of the man in bed 9 was grave. An intense fever and acute liver condition meant he was unable to eat or focus on the matters of ambition and desire that propelled him throughout his life. The notes at the end of the bed offered scant information, and much of it was inaccurate. On July the 9th, 1949, a patient by the name of Reinhardt was brought in. The date was right. The name was not. His real name was Wächter. But its use would alert the authorities that the patient was wanted for mass murder. A senior Nazi. He once served as a deputy to Hans Frank, Governor-General of occupied Poland, hanged 3 years earlier in Nuremberg for the murder of 4 million human beings. Wächter too was indicted for mass murder, the shooting and execution of over 100,000 people. The estimate was low. Reinhardt was on the run in Rome. He believed himself to be hunted by Americans, Poles, Soviets, and Jews for crimes against humanity and genocide. He hoped to get to South America. His father was identified in the notes as Joseph, which was correct. The space to record his Christian name was blank. Reinhardt used the name Alfredo, but his real name was Otto. The patient's occupation was described as writer, which was not entirely wrong. Otto Wächter wrote letters to his wife and kept a diary, although the entries were few and, as I would learn, written in a shorthand or code that made them difficult to decipher. He also wrote poems, and more recently, to fill the empty hours of a man in need of distraction, one film script and a manifesto on the future of Germany. He gave it the title, Quo Vadis Germania. When he was powerful and free, the patient put his name to documents of a kind that would cause a man to be hunted. His name appeared at the bottom of important letters and decrees. In Vienna, he ended the careers of thousands. including 2 of his university teachers. In Krakow, he authorized the construction of a ghetto. In Lemberg, he prohibited Jews from work. It would be more accurate, therefore, to describe the patient's occupation as a lawyer, a governor, an SS Gruppenführer. For the last 4 years, his main focus was survival. A man who hid and sought escape, and who believed he had succeeded. The notes stated his age as 45. He was 3 years older and had recently celebrated his birthday. The notes described his marital status as single. Actually, he was married to Charlotte Bleckmann, identified as Lottie or Lo in his letters. She called him Hümmchen or Hümmi, a term of endearment. They had 6 children, although it could have been more. The notes offered no address in Rome. In fact, he lived secretly, in a monk's cell on the top floor of the Vigna Pia monastery on the outskirts of the city, tucked in a bend of the river Tiber. He liked to swim. The notes did not mention that the patient was brought to the hospital by 2 monks who lived at Vigna Pia. As to his condition, the notes stated, "The patient indicates that he has been unable to eat since July the 1st, that he developed a high fever on July the 2nd and showed symptoms of jaundice on July the 7th. The patient is diabetic, and the clinical examination revealed a liver condition, acute yellow liver atrophy, icterus gravis." From other sources, we learn that Reinhardt received 3 visitors during his stay at the Santo Spirito Hospital. One was a bishop, once close to Pope Pius XII. Another was a medical doctor who served at the German embassy in Rome during the war. The third was a Prussian lady, married to an Italian academic with whom she had 2 children. She visited him each day, once on Sunday, the day after he was admitted, twice on Monday, once on Tuesday. This day, Wednesday the 13th of July, was the 5th visit. Each time she brought a small gift, an item of fruit or a little sugar, as the doctor suggested. It was difficult for the Prussian lady to enter the Sala Baglivi in which he lay. On the first visit, she was questioned intently by a guard. "Not enough specifics," he told her. "Be discreet," she has been warned. "Say only you are a friend of the church." She repeated the words. The guard relented, and now they recognized her. The visitor was impressed by the scale of the Sala Baglivi. Like a church, she would tell the patient's wife, who, according to the notes, did not exist. She appreciated the coolness of the vast space, a refuge from the heat of the day, as she walked from her home past the Piazza dei Queriti and the fountain which caused Mussolini to declare that 4 naked women should never be present in a park. She entered the Sala Baglivi, passed the small chapel, turned right, approached the patient's bed, lingered. She greeted him, spoke a few words, cooled him with a damp cloth, changed his shirt. She took a little stool from under the bed and sat to offer conversation and comfort. A new patient in the neighboring bed meant less privacy, so she took care with her words. The patient had little to say. He was on penicillin, intravenously, to treat the infection, and the drug lowered the fever but left him weak. He was told to consume little, coffee with milk, a few drops of orange juice, a tablespoon of dextrose. The doctors cautioned him to protect his stomach. On each visit, the lady noticed a change. On Monday, he was weak and spoke little. On Tuesday, he seemed fresher and more talkative. He inquired about letters he expected to receive and shared the hope that his oldest child, also called Otto, might visit before the summer was over.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?